Coyne joining you from LA, and I have to laugh every time that intro plays. And both of us are backstage, but like you can see each other. Everyone's just like, it's just so catchy.
I love it. My name is James Cook, coming to you from Indiana, and we both research retail and real estate for JLL.
And this is everything we know about retail,
where we tell all of you everything that we know, three things at a time.
And dance to the intro music all at the same time. I mean, whoever's not, just no soul. But James,
no soul. Yeah.
I digress. What do you know about retail this week?
Well, Taylor, I know that Primark has just opened its downtown Chicago store. And what do you know about retail, Taylor?
Well, I know that, brace yourself, this is shocking, that there are more announced openings than closings so far in 2021.
That's not shocking. That's awesome. That's great news. That is what they call in the biz a green shoot. A green shoot indeed. So here is the first thing that we know about retail. So according to CoreSite Research, openings have outpaced closures this year, which, when was the last time you've heard that sentence uttered in the retail world? I mean, it's been a few years. It wasn't, we've had a pretty rough year or two. But, I mean, there were times, like, it really depends on how you track it. Like, are you going to track number of stores that open and close? Are you going to track square footage? This is number of stores announced openings and number of stores announced closings, right?
Yep. And also, this is to date. We're almost in April. Again, this is great positive news. But yes, to your point, everything's always fluctuating. But for right now, we're going to take this as a real green shoot. This is some good news that we all needed. So U.S. retailers have announced almost 3,200 store openings and a little over 2,500 closures year to date so far. So let's take a quick look at who's actually doing what. So all of these are just some of the major brands who have announced some of their openings. So right off the top, we've got two beauty players. We've got Ulta and Sephora. Together they're opening 100 stores, which interestingly, so Sephora, I left the freestanding on there is because the majority of their stores that they're going to be opening will not be in malls.
Right.
So, I think that that's going to be something that we'll notice too. A lot of these openings are going to be off mall sites. That's just something that we've been reading. Even Macy's, they're thinking about, what's their, I'm blanking on what they're calling their concept that's opening up in the strip centers.
Oh my goodness. We just talked about it a couple of weeks ago.
All right. This is going to end up being a point of clarification.
Market, like Macy's, Market at Macy's, that one?
Yeah, that sounds right. And it has like a cafe in it. Anyway, even one of the biggest mall retailers is thinking about opening off mall.
Off mall, yeah.
And also, again, we talked about this the other week with Sucharita, right? The store within stores. So Sephora's planning 200 store within stores within Kohl's. That's massive. That's very significant. Also, we're going to see Burlington open 75 new stores. And interestingly, a portion of those are going to be their smaller format stores, which in the scheme of things, still large. It's still 25,000 square feet, but that's compared to their typical 50 to 80,000 square feet. So again, already we're seeing some, new concepts in terms of store design and partnerships. Aerie is opening 60 stores. Oops, sorry, skipped Fabletics. But again, all of this goes into the same thing of this kind of athleisure. So Fabletics is opening 24 new stores. Aerie, which also not technically all athleisure, but we'll get to that. They're going to open 60 new stores in areas, American Eagles, they geared towards a younger generation, a lot of body positivity, inclusivity, real a brand that's done incredibly well recently. And they're also going to be opening 25 to 30 of their offline Bay Area, which we talked about last week when Ryan was on, because that's their new athleisure brand. And I didn't, that's a lot of standalone just athleisure stores as well. That's 25 to 30.
And as we were talking about last week, it's a lot of new athleisure at a time when people could be heading out of the home again.
I know. But again, see, this goes to my point. Yes, we're going to be heading out, but we have also lived, again, I think I can't wait to go out and wear a really fancy dress and go to a wedding and all of those things. But at the same time, wellness, self-care, all of that is still, like, athleisure is not going anywhere. We're just finally going to be buying some other stuff too.
Got it.
Dick's is also going to be opening 6 stores in addition to 6 specialty stores, which have not, as far as I've seen, not been defined yet. But this is my bet now. I expect one to be dedicated to athleisure and wellness, to showcase their newest menswear brand, Versed. And they've also got like a women's line also. So I think at least one of those is going to be athleisure, wellness, smaller footprint stores. I will bet something on it. We'll bet another craft beer on it. We'll report back later.
Okay.
TJX, that umbrella is going to be opening 122 stores between TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods, HomeSense. Now we're really getting into some of the value players. Five Below, massive expansion as well. And their Five Beyond concept, which is another kind of store within a store concept. So that's within 30% of its existing footprint. So I don't think they're going to be any Five Beyond standalone stores, but they're going into those Five Below stores.
And just if memory serves, Five Beyond is their way of getting around the $5 price point.
Yes.
And they're saying, we're still offering you value, but it might be $7 for this item. Yeah,
exactly. It's Five Beyond and not just always Five Below.
Well, that is the real danger with putting a number in your name, right? Same thing with like the dollar stores, and I'm like, well, it's not really everything under $1 anymore. We're just offering value for your dollar now,
right? You'll probably spend dollars, but we're going to keep that small as possible. But I do, whoever did it, like Five Beyond, if you're gonna, again, the danger of putting a number in there, but Five Beyond sounds pretty good. So
yeah, it's a good
kudos to them.
Yeah.
Gap is also going to be opening 30 to 40 Old Navy stores and 20 to 30 Athleta stores. However, on the flip side, expect to see some Gap, like actual Gap stores and Banana Republic store closures. So, again, it's all about balance, right? But Old Navy and Athleta, obviously, 2 of their brands that do incredibly well. And then to round this off, which I left to the end because clearly these are really inflating some of our opening numbers. Dollar General, and James, I know you spoke about this the other week too, since dollar stores are really, have capitalized on this pandemic, have capitalized on the fact that a lot of people are struggling and value is incredibly important. They are opening more than 1,000 locations. That and Dollar Tree is opening 400 and 200 Family Dollar stores. I mean, that's a ton of stores. That is clearly value taking this and, really running with these numbers.
Yeah. And I mean, in Dollar General's case, that's about the same number of stores that they opened last year. And I think the year before too. So that's just kind of been their pace. It's like, let's just do 1,000 stores a year. That's insane. That's just a lot of stores to open in a year. They've got a real machine going.
Oh, yeah, they've got a formula. They know what they're doing, and they're going to continue to roll out. I'll be curious, at some point, is it next year that we stop seeing 1,000 new stores? Is it 2 years from now? I'll be curious what ends up happening down the line,
Well, Family Dollar is expanding their market into even smaller population rural areas. So Dollar General could follow that and say, hey, we're going to go. If you just have a really simple, inexpensive operating model, it means you can go into smaller markets. So maybe that's, the next move for Dollar General too.
Yeah, well, time will tell. But again, I am loving these green shoots. It just feels like we are so far, again, I know we've been talking about it a lot, but light at the end of the tunnel. This is all awesome stuff. So James, hopefully you know something else that's going to continue our green shoots positivity story. What else do you know about retail?
Oh, yeah. Taylor, that reminds me of the second thing that I know about retail, and we're just continuing this conversation, but we're going to zoom in on one particular location. We're going to Chicago, Illinois. Specifically, we're going to head down to State Street, where the new Primark has opened. So now this theme is going to just follow right along because Primark is opening at State in Washington. It's the first Primark in the Midwest, and it's in a former Gap location. It's a nice urban location, 3 stories, 45,000 square feet. As a matter of fact, let's add some photos to this mix. So that's what the outside looks like. It's a great location on State Street, which State Street, it's one of the urban corridors that we track across the U.S. It's not considered a prime? Is it kind of like, because it's more of a if I'm an office worker, this is where I'm doing my shopping at, right? It's not like a Michigan Avenue or a Fifth Avenue.
Right. You have to kind of say it doesn't have that same je ne sais quoi about it. You're not going to
luxury shopping.
Yeah, you're not going to see some of that high end, but it's still commanding, high rents in the city because of all of that office density and all of that traffic. So it's still, a really great street. You're just not going to see the same types of retailers that, come to mind when you think Rodeo Drive.
Right. So this Primark just opened on, I think, the 11th. Of March. So recently, the lease was signed back in 2019, but they've opened it. It is only I want to say it's the 12th Primark in the U.S., but it's only the second one that's in a downtown location. So I've been to 2 other Primarks, and they're mostly in mall locations. So the one in King of Prussia, and then the other one I've been to was urban. It was a downtown Crossing in Boston. But what you get at Primark is,
which is funny. I was going to compare State Street to Downtown Crossing in Boston. Yeah. So there you
go. Very similar.
That makes sense that they have identified locations in both of these corridors.
Yeah, and this is, it's really. Here's a video. Primark is really the lowest price fast fashion I think I've ever been to. But not only is it low price, but it's really on fashion. Like it's very like this. Like you can see there, it looks like you could be in maybe a Uniqlo or an H&M or something like that. Even though the prices are a lot lower. This was over a year ago, but one of the things I remember seeing was there was a men's suit, a full men's suit for $49, which is shockingly low. Now, granted, my expectations for the quality of the fabric and the craftsmanship of that suit are probably pretty low, but still, think about all of the people, especially younger people earlier in their careers, who've been working from home for the past year and now are going to, over the next 6 months or so, go back into the office. If you need a short-term suit to throw on that's inexpensive, this is a really great opportunity.
Right. Even just for interviews, too, if you're younger and don't actually have the job to go and, walk into someplace else and get a really nice suit, I think that's great. You need that option. I think this Primark is going to do very well on State Street.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a perfect location. It's right down the street from a Uniqlo, so you can kind of get all your fast fashion action in there. This is really close to the JLL office, our global headquarters in Chicago, which back in the before times I used to go to quite a bit. Hopefully I'll get back there.
The before times.
So this summer, crossing my fingers, we do some work trips. I'll get up to Chicago, get some photos and some videos, and kind of check it out. I'm really excited. I think it's awesome that Primark is opened. Up next for Primark, they have a location. It's another urban location. It's in Center City, Philly, but it's at the Fashion District, which is it's that project. I think it's Macerich and Preet. I think it's their joint project, and it's like an urban fashion mall in Center City. And then they've also got 2 locations coming to New York, but it's not the city. It's like maybe Long Island or Queens or something like that.
I could see Primark opening something in downtown LA eventually.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, we got a second here. Downtown LA, that's the first West Coast location. Where's the second? Where else are you going to go in Primark in, let's say, Greater Los Angeles? Where's your second spot?
Ooh, in Greater LA, I think they pick a mall location.
Oh, yeah.
You 100%. You try, I could see it at the Grove. I can also see it, there are some I don't know if you go super the Westfield Century City, which again, though, had some vacancies prior to the pandemic since they were really just ramping up leasing. I could see a Primark there and do really well, also. And I think that they would almost want to target that versus like a Glendale Galleria, which is your more typical enclosed mall. I think that they would want some of those more open air centers, even if it's, a little bit of a higher price point. I still think that they'd fit in there.
Do you know off the top of your head? Because I think personally that those are all good options. I think Glendale Galleria is probably a little bit more likely for them because I see them going into a former, like I think about King of Prussia, they went into part of a former Sears space. I think on Long Island they're going into a former J.C. Penney. So it seems like it's the new department store, tenant.
Yeah, and in which case it fits more with a Galleria, I think. Yeah. I think you're right. But there are a lot of markets. You could also go up into the valley. There are a ton of, also it's LA. It's gigantic. I think it's probably, outside of a downtown LA, which I think would do really well. I think you're thinking then more of our suburban markets, right? Which I know some people would argue lots of LA is suburban, which, to be fair, but a little bit more on the outskirts. But I think LA would be another great market for them to enter.
Yes. All right. Well, Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
All right, James. This is the third thing that we know about retail. And guess what? It's more green shoots. Employees are getting encouraged to return to work.
All right.
So let's take a trip down to what we've been seeing. So the reason we're talking about it, this is a retail podcast or video stream live show. Why are we talking about office workers? Well, because we have said urban retail will not rebound until the office workers return. So this chart is using Placer data. So, all of this mobility, where we're going, who's where. And we took a look at our prime urban corridors and our suburban, shopping areas and wanted to see how traffic was rebounding. And this was as of January, year over year. Urban center malls, and then our prime urban corridors that are really tourist heavy and or located to this intense office, density, were performing the worst. They were about 63 for both of them, % down year over year, which is significant. And again, not terribly surprising considering we've all been working from home, and the people who are going into these offices, most likely, we've been home for a long time. So it's been really hard to support all of that urban retail. But I'm sure, as you know, with President Biden's recent announcement that we'll see enough vaccine supply by the end of May, and that July 4th is a reasonable goal for some normalcy, municipalities and some of these companies are returning or calling people back, encouraging you to get back into the office. So New York City's 80,000 municipal office employees are going to return to the office starting on May 3rd. JP Morgan Chase is planning to bring back their in-person summer internships this June. And then Microsoft at the end of this month, again, this is more of a hybrid, but still we're talking major, large corporation, is encouraging a hybrid work approach where they're bringing some people back into the office while others continue to work from home. And I think for someone like Microsoft, a company like Microsoft, that flexibility is always going to be in play. But that's some really encouraging signs. And I think this chart is going to start changing again soon. So is the other one. So this is our from our office counterparts. This is the observed and projected U.S. office reentry timeline. So, here, where are we? We're in March right now. So 25% of people, this is probably a month or two old. So 25% of people were projected to go back into the office. Granted, look at the levels we've been at for the past year, very low, but it is getting incrementally bigger and bigger. By the end of the year, we say 80%. And, I think everyone's saying we're never going to be back to what we were before. Just with flexibility.
I am. I say, I've been talking with Scott Homa, our office research lead. I think within 3 years, we're back at daytime office worker levels that are higher than pre-COVID. I don't think it happens in a year. I think it takes some time, but there is so much that happens in offices that doesn't happen over Zoom. I think it takes a little bit of time to get back into the groove, but I think people getting back there.
Yeah, we'll discuss. This can be a topic of discussion going forward. I do feel, again, LA traffic, I think a lot of people have also realized how much time savings they get by sometimes not going into the office. Again, I think it's all about flexibility. And I'm not trying to say the office is not incredibly valuable and that people will get a lot by going back in. Again, my point is just the flexibility. But I'm with you. I think there's no substitute. It's not the same. But again, my whole thing is flexibility. But, again, more green shoots. It's really great to see people going back again. It's nice. I was talking to a friend the other day who's in New York and was walking down the street, and they're just like, yeah, it's just looking, and granted, it's about to be springtime and everything also. So it's just looking and people are a little bit happier. But, life is returning a little bit. And I just think that that's really nice, just to be able to see more people walking around doing normal things. So more green shoots. More green shoots.
I will say, Taylor, we got a ways to go. I just was looking, because we were talking about Primark right before the show. I jumped into Placer, which is the mobility data, which is basically how many people are in an area. I looked at the State Street corridor in Chicago. Currently, the most recent Saturday they had was the last Saturday in February, about, I want to say 20,000 visitors. Then a Saturday in March, right before the COVID lockdowns, 40,000. So we're only at half the number of visitors to State Street corridor. So we got some vaccinations to do.
Yeah. And James, I think that's a really good point too. Like, we're talking about these green shoots, and while I'm excited to report these, I feel like a lot of people have been asking us for, I want to say, months now. What are the signs? What are things getting back to normal? Yeah. And we've been saying, look, we know the demand is there. A lot of it's consumer, research and surveys, but we don't have any actual evidence that it's happening. I do feel like some of these things, though, we're now inching towards yes. We have dates for some of these things. We'll be able to show you, I feel good in April, our pedestrian traffic is going to start inching up on some of our streets. Again, long way to go, but it is nice to finally be yeah, we'll have something more concrete to show you. So, that's all exciting stuff.
Awesome. All right. Well, Taylor, do you have anything for us to talk about? Any items for discussion, perhaps?
Do I ever? Item for discussion. So a few weeks ago, you were talking about the rebirth of the Payless brand, right? With its first store in Miami. Yeah. Well, a viewer, Marco, our good friend up north in Canada, reached out to remind us about the greatest Payless pop-up that we did not mention. Right. Now, James, do you remember Palessi?
Yes, I remember it as a troll, a great retail. Would you call it a troll when you're trolling the public?
Sure,
a joke, a gimmick.
Yes,
okay.
A ruse. It was a ruse.
So it were shenanigans. Let's go on. I'm just gonna get out my thesaurus.
So I completely forgot about this.
Yeah, me too.
And when Palessi was mentioned, I was like, I have no idea don't know what this is. Yeah. It happened at Santa Monica Place, November 2018. As soon as I Googled it, memories flooding back to just being I forgot this happened. So let me remind you, Payless decided to launch a fake store under a fake new brand, Palessi. And they hired these, as you can see in this photo, like all of these sales associates wearing all black and heels, looking
Yeah.
very professional, and all rebranding, and they had apparently there's like lots of statues in the store, and rebranded all of this. And it was supposed to be, a launch of a new brand. And they invited a bunch of, let's call them influencers. I don't know who was actually invited, but we'll call them influencers to come and try the shoes on for this brand launch. And you get interviews of all of these people just saying the leather quality is fantastic. I can tell this is very high end. I would buy this. I would buy this for $500. Oh, this is so on trend. This is going to be, a staple in your closet. It goes on and on of these people, to be honest, sounding a little ridiculous. And then at the end, basically, they go and buy these shoes for $500, and then they come out and say, FYI, those were $30 Payless shoes. And everyone is shocked and, oh my goodness. So it was just a whole marketing thing. Who knows how, who knows how real all of it was, but I like to think it was because it's pretty funny. So blast from the past. And
that was great. Payless, you were so smart in showing the value of the brand. It's a shame that you had to die, but you're making a rebirth. So that's great.
Yeah, maybe we'll have more of these in the future. Who knows? Who knows?
I love it's like Payless. It's Italian for Payless.
Like truly, like I was like, what is this? And then you're like, oh my God, Payless. You're just like, all right, good for you guys. Good
well, it reminds me when I was a kid, there was a commercial series where they were like, we took the coffee from the diners at this family restaurant and replaced it with Folgers Crystals, which is instant coffee. And then at the time, I didn't know about coffee because I was a kid. But now as an adult, I'm like, if you gave me Folgers Crystals, I'll be like, there's something wrong with this coffee because it tastes like garbage. And
you'd know.
It makes me have this theory that when somebody puts a camera in your face, you get instantly stupid.
Yes, and just like very anxious. Like, right? Like,
oh yeah, this is great coffee. I love it. I'd pay $100 for this coffee or these shoes or whatever.
Yeah, both. I would pay $100 for this coffee and these shoes. Timeless. But yeah, so well done. Thank you, Marco, and thank you, Payless, for this great story. James, anything else that you'd like to discuss before next week?
Well, Taylor, as a matter of fact, I too have an item for discussion, but I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble speaking, Taylor, because
what's wrong?
My shoulder is so sore. I'm weak. I'm weak because I have a Pfizer vaccine coursing through my veins. Oh, that's right, Taylor.
So dramatic.
Not hours ago, I went to my local Walmart, filled out a series of forms, got a shot, sat for 15 minutes, walked away a healthier, more COVID-free human being. So I am so excited, and thank you.
It is truly a momentous occasion. I laugh, but this is very serious and a really excellent step forward.
And we have talked in the past about this idea, the concept of when do things return to normal, and even like what does that word normal actually mean. And we've joked a lot about like we're going to officially designate, there's going to be a certain period we're going to be like, all right, James and Taylor have officially decided it is now normal.
Normal Thursday.
Yes. So because our shows are on Thursdays, I propose that the first Thursday where things feel normal, we will call that Normal Thursday. So we need to very quickly, what are like the 2 or 3 things where we hit that and we're like, yeah, it's normal. Like what for you is like the normal thing?
Going out to eat and not going out to eat with friends.
Yes.
Not just me and my husband who, we are in the same household. So like, yes, this feels safer. You're going out with friends, other people. I would even argue indoors. Yeah.
I mean, for me, first step is going to be going out with for dinner, sit down dinner with my wife and then my in-laws once we're all kind of safe. And then that next step is seeing other human beings, which,
Yeah.
I'm seeing it coming. I mean, if I'm my wife and I are fully vaccinated by May, I see us going and hanging out with other people. I see myself having a beer in a bar.
Yeah.
And a tear. A tear will roll down my eye as I order that first draft beer and I sip at it and look at my fellow bargoers.
Right. And I know that people are doing that now, but there is a little something which I feel like the new normal of you just feeling better about it and less like, so, what have you guys been doing? How safe have you been? It's less of that awkward conversation.
Yeah.
And I think you're like, cool, we all vaccinated. Great. We feel good about this. Let's go and do this. And we're not going to think about it again. We're not going to have to be like, well, is this place, are they adhering to all of the rules? Like, I just feel like the checklist of things that you need to think about when trying to do something is shortened.
Here's one for me. I think things are going to feel normal again when I see other people who aren't wearing masks and don't get upset.
Yes.
Right? That's when it's normal. When I don't give an F-bomb about what other people are doing with their mask situation, where it's just whatever.
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
That is a normal thing for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any other things? I mean, I think working in an office, at least part of the time, we talked about eating out and traveling. I mean, for me, getting back to traveling is going to be huge. Yeah.
And traveling, that's going to come in waves too, right? You're probably not going internationally and I'm not talking like for me in California, like a lot of people are still going to Mexico just because it's so close. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like, you're not going to Rome, in the next few months. So that's going to take longer. But even just like traveling, yes, I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going a little further away and I'm not going to like, I'm staying in a hotel. I'm not staying in Airbnb, like by choice, like if you wanted to go to a hotel, I think that's part of it too, of like, we like just traveling and not feeling so anxious about it and kind of traveling the way that you want, staying in that hotel, going to the bars and the restaurants that you want to in this new place. I think that's a big one too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. So we're going to be keeping our eyes close on how normal things are. The Thursday after things become normal, we will decree that normal Thursday. Perhaps we'll celebrate it each year by having a beer in a public place.
I was just about to say, as long as it's not alone and on this video, we can do the video, but we just have to be at the same place at the bar drinking the beer.
Well, Taylor, I can't wait until we're doing this show like together. Maybe we're both on a work trip and we're in some, different city or, whatever. It would be great to get out of these same, little office spaces.
White walls, yeah.
I know.
Even though I guess that's office also, or they just don't have wallpaper or paint, but it's fine.
Well, folks, if you want to learn more about retail and retail real estate, you should check out our podcast. We do weekly in-depth interviews. The latest episode is with the CEO of Volumental, which is a company, they scan your feet. They tell you what shoes will fit better on you after they scan your feet. They've scanned 10 million feet. It's really cool. They're in like a bunch of stores in the U.S. I don't know if you know the Fleet Feet chain, but they have scanners in most of those stores.
No, unfamiliar, but I do know like running stores, if you go to a good running store, they want to scan your feet. I feel like that's great. A lot of people got feet problems. They need to, last a long time. They take you places.
100%. So check it out. Go to wherewebuy.show. And subscribe to the podcast.
And hit the subscribe button for our YouTube live show. Click that bell icon too so you're notified when the new shows come out. Our next episode will be next Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. Also, 6 p.m. in Johannesburg.
Oh, nice. Johannesburg.
Yeah, we haven't...
Taylor, you wouldn't believe how many people are emailing me from Johannesburg saying that they love the show.
I know. So I figured we needed to give them a little shout out and just let the world know that they're watching it 6 p.m. every night, every Thursday night.
Also on this YouTube channel, we're going to do a live recording of our podcast, getting a crossover episode there. The show's going to be a special topic. How can I use my retail store for last mile fulfillment?
Hot topic too.
I know. Yeah. Everybody's talking about it. It's going to be on April 1st 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Go to everythingweknow.show. So, wait for it. Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
James, I'll tell you all of it next week.